sitting at the computer watching that Copart auction timer tick down. I hit the bid button and bought this wrecked Urus sight unseen. Everybody said it was a massive mistake. When that flatbed tow truck finally pulled up a week later and dropped it on the concrete in front of my garage, the reality of the situation really hit me hard. The crash damage was way worse than the pictures showed. The whole front end was completely smashed inward all the way to the engine block. The suspension was totally collapsed, laying flat on the ground. The airbags were fully blown out, and there was shattered glass, twisted metal, and leaking coolant all over the driveway. It looked like an absolute total loss, just a dead bull sitting in the dirt waiting for the crusher. But when I looked at that twisted metal, I ain't see scrap. I saw the vision. You gotta have that vision when everybody else is totally blind to it. We had to use heavy floor jacks just to push this heavy wreck into a dusty, dimly lit garage. I didn't have no fancy dealership hydraulic lifts, and I definitely didn't have no professional pit crew. Just me, some basic hand tools, an angle grinder, and a whole lot of patience. We spent days just ripping off the destroyed front bumper. Half the bolts were rusted or completely fused together from the impact. So I had to cut them off with the grinder, sparks flying everywhere. The garage smelled constantly like old oil, burnt transmission fluid, and sweat. Every single time I took off a broken plastic piece, I found 2 more metal brackets that needed fixing. It always gets worse before it gets better. But that's the reality of the hustle. You got to break it all the way down to the bare foundation before you can build a masterpiece. Chapter 2, Heavy Metal and Engine Pull. Now that the front clip was completely stripped, we had to do the dangerous heavy lifting. The crash was so violent, it pushed the whole front chassis and frame rails completely out of alignment. If the bones ain't straight, this super truck ain't never gonna drive right, and the alignment would be ruined forever. We strapped this massive beast down to the concrete floor anchors with heavy iron chains and hooked up a heavy-duty hydraulic winch. We literally had to pull the crushed metal back into its exact factory position. Hearing that thick steel creak, groan under extreme tension, and finally pop violently back into place. Man, that is the most stressful sound in the world, but that's the sound of real progress. Now we finally had a solid foundation, but the frame was only half the battle. The motor was still completely trashed. We hooked up the heavy engine hoist and pulled that massive twin turbo V8 block completely out of the bay. So it was sitting right there on the shop floor, leaking oil. I didn't just want to repair it to factory specs. I wanted to make it a certified street monster. We took the engine block apart piece by piece, swapped out all the broken components, threw in some massive upgraded aftermarket turbos, bolted on custom catless downpipes, and installed a high-flow cooling system to keep the intake temperatures frozen. My hands were permanently stained with black engine oil and grease for over a month. We carefully dropped that heavy V8 back into the bay, connected the complicated wiring harnesses, and hooked up the high-pressure fuel lines. The moment of truth, when we finally primed the oil pump, turned that key, you can't put a price on that feeling. The motor was officially alive again. Chapter 3, The Mansory Vision. Now that the motor was healthy and breathing fire, it was time to fix the face. Bodywork is the ultimate test of patience. We spent countless late nights in the shop, block sanding down every single scratch, pulling out the minor dents, and prepping the bare metal for fresh paint. The whole garage was constantly covered in a thick layer of white Bondo dust. My hands were numb from sanding. Once the body was smooth as a piece of glass, we rolled it into a professional well-lit paint booth. I didn't want no basic factory color. We sprayed it with a custom ultra-deep midnight black. Watching that glossy clear coat lay down perfectly over the fresh dark base, that's when you finally start to see the dream coming together in real time. But fresh paint ain't enough if you really want to break necks on the street. It was time for the final boss aesthetics. We ordered the full authentic Mansory widebody kit to give it that aggressive, incredibly mean stance. We unboxed the massive wooden crates and started the most stressful part, cutting the original factory quarter panels. There's no going back after that. We bolted on the Crazy Forge carbon fiber hood, the massive carbon front lip, and the wide fender flares that make the truck look twice as wide. The forged carbon caught the light perfectly, looking like black marble. Then we installed a lowering module for the air suspension and dropped the whole truck onto some custom, extremely wide 3-piece forged wheels. Every single detail, every single panel gap was calculated to perfection. It wasn't just a luxury SUV no more. It was looking like a stealth fighter jet ready for war.